The cabin betrayal. How my family erased me. When my parents sold the family cabin, they didn't even tell me. I found out through a Facebook post. My sister smiling in front of it with a caption, "Our wedding gift. Thanks, Mom and Dad." When I dared to ask about my share, my mom just laughed. "You really think you earned anything?" she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Danielle's starting a real life. You're just wasting space." My dad chimed in. "What would you even do with it? Turn it into one of your little projects and screw it up like everything else?" They talked about me like I was a joke. All I said was, "Got it. Thanks for clearing that up." 2 months later, I took one step that blew it all wide open. Now, they're leaving voicemails every day. "Please talk to us. We didn't mean it like that." The setup. My childhood, my sister, and the cabin. Usually just lurk online, but this whole thing has been absolutely eating at me, and I need to get it out. If you've ever wondered how far parents will go to pick favorites, buckle up. I'll try to keep this concise, but honestly, I'm still kind of seeing red, so if it gets a little messy, I apologize in advance. My family has this old place, a cabin. Nothing fancy, but it's been in the family since before I was born. It's out by a lake, about a 45-minute drive from where I grew up. My sister Danielle and I spent every summer there, fishing, playing cards, endless Monopoly games where someone always quit mid-board. For context, Danielle is a couple of years younger. Always the golden child, mostly because she played by the rules. I never did. My parents always made it weirdly clear they respect people who follow a traditional path. I never really fit that mold. I don't think I'm some rebel, but I like to do my own thing. Fast forward to now, I moved out years ago and don't go home much. The family group chat died like 2 years ago, except for the occasional forwarded meme from my dad. I guess I always felt a bit like the odd one out, but whatever, right? I've got my own life. Still, the cabin always felt like Switzerland. Neutral territory, you know? It's not a mansion, but it's got all this history. My granddad built the deck himself. My mom's obsessed with her dumb collection of weird mugs that nobody's allowed to use. It always felt like the one thing that truly belonged to both of us. Even as the family got more distant, the weirdness started. The discovery. A Facebook post. Not a conversation about 2 months ago. On a random Saturday, I was doom-scrolling on my phone. Someone I barely talk to anymore tagged me in a Facebook post. I almost ignored it, but I clicked. It was a photo of Danielle standing in front of the cabin, all done up like she was at some influencer photo shoot. The caption was what made me stop. "Our wedding gift. Thanks, Mom and Dad." It took me a full minute to process. Wedding gift? What wedding gift? Danielle had been engaged for a while, but nobody said anything about the cabin. I texted her. Left on read. I figured, okay, maybe it's just a weird caption. But then I saw all these comments from her friends, congratulating her on getting the cabin, talking about how lucky she was to start her new life in such a special place. My stomach just dropped. I scrolled further, and there was my mom chiming in, saying how happy they were to give Danielle this fresh start. So that's how I found out the cabin was gone. Not from my parents, not from Danielle, not even in a family chat, just a public Facebook post for everyone but me. The confrontation. Their true colors. Obviously, I called my mom. She didn't pick up. I tried my dad, straight to voicemail. I texted again. Nothing. At this point, I wasn't even angry, just confused. Like, maybe there was some explanation. Maybe they were just letting her use it for the wedding? Nope. 3 days later, my mom finally called. It wasn't even a proper conversation. She was weirdly chipper, like nothing had happened. I asked her, "So what's going on with the cabin? Did you sell it to Danielle?" She actually laughed. "So you really think you'd get anything from it?" she said, then sighed like I was a child who didn't understand the world. "Danielle's starting a real life, and you're just wasting space." What would you even do with it? Turn it into one of your little projects and screw it up like everything else? My dad chimed in on speaker. He said if it had been up to him, they would have sold it years ago. At least now it was going to someone who would appreciate it. I tried to ask, what about my share? Didn't Granddad say it was supposed to be split? My mom just rolled her eyes, audibly over the phone. You haven't earned anything. Danielle deserves it because she listens. She's not off chasing stupid ideas. My dad launched into how I never finish anything, how I just let it rot. I tried to say that wasn't true. I did all that work on the deck last year, but he talked over me, said that didn't count. It was just busy work. At this point, I just said, fine. Thanks for clearing that up. She said, don't be dramatic, and hung up. I just sat there for a minute, not sure what I expected, but that wasn't it. I've always known they saw me as the lost cause, but hearing it that bluntly, like I'm just in the way, hit differently. Not in a self-pity way, just, I don't know. It's like I wasn't even in the conversation. They talked about me in the third person, like I wasn't there. Like I was this annoying ex-friend they had to deal with because I showed up at Thanksgiving sometimes. No mention of my name in the Facebook post either, just erased. The cold shoulder and the clues. So, I messaged Danielle again, asking if she knew I wasn't told. She finally answered, super short. Said our parents handled everything. She assumed I didn't care. Then said she was busy with wedding stuff and left it at that. I replied, asking if she actually owned it now or if it was just for the wedding. She went silent again. I tried calling my dad once more. He actually picked up, but immediately started off with how I should be happy for Danielle, how I'd just bring drama if I was involved. He said, if you start poking around, it'll just ruin her chance at happiness. I said, I just want to know what happened. And he snapped back, don't call again unless it's important, then hung up. At this point, I was just done. I texted my mom, told her I get it, I'm out. She sent back a thumbs-up emoji, not even a word. The rest of that week was a blur. I tried not to think about it, but then little stuff kept popping up. My landlord mentioned someone tried to call about my old address, saying they were family and needed info. The family group. Chat. Dead silence except for Danielle's wedding updates. Not a single mention of the cabin from anyone else, like it just disappeared. Extended family was either clueless or pretending not to know. I started running through old emails, trying to remember if there was ever any paperwork about the cabin. I knew my granddad said something years ago about keeping it in the family, but I never saw anything official. I asked my aunt about it. She lives in another state. We're not super close. And she just said, oh, I thought your parents would talk to you about that, and then changed the subject. Nobody wanted to get involved. So yeah, that's where I was at. Family cabin just gone. Not a word until it's posted all over Facebook. Parents act like I'm some leech for even asking about it. Danielle's getting her fresh start, and I'm apparently just background noise. My investigation, uncovering the trust. I'm not the type to just eat this and move on. I don't care if they want to play favorites, but you don't get to pretend I don't exist. You don't get to erase me because I don't fit your idea of success. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm not letting them get away with this. I'm not about to let them just smile for Facebook and act like I was never part of the family. Next time I see Danielle, I'm not staying quiet. And my parents can keep ignoring my calls, but they're going to have to deal with me one way or another. The weirdest thing is how totally normal everything looked afterward. My parents kept posting dad jokes and food pics on Facebook, acting like nothing happened. Danielle's feed was just wedding countdowns, random throwback shots of her at the lake as a kid. Not a single mention of the cabin. Nobody in the family group chat said a damn thing. Even my aunt, who used to at least send a Christmas meme, stopped messaging. It was almost like they'd rehearsed it. Everyone pretending I was just background noise. So I started poking around. Not like detective level, but enough to see what was actually going on. I remembered my granddad making a big deal that the cabin was for the family, Not just one person. He died years ago, but I figured there had to be some record. I started with old emails, texts, even went back through some paper files I still had in a box. Nothing super official, just old group emails where Granddad Carbon copied everyone about repairs. And a couple of times he'd mentioned the trust. I barely remembered it, but that's what stuck out. He said the cabin was in a family trust, meant to be kept for all the kids, not just passed down to one. I Googled a bunch of stuff about property trusts, then found the county assessor's website. Not exactly fun, but I tracked down the deed. Turns out, yeah, my parents were trustees, but technically everything was supposed to benefit the family. There was literally a clause about equal access and benefit. That made my blood boil a bit more because it wasn't like they sold their own house or something. It was supposed to be for both of us. I asked my aunt about it again, and she just said, I should talk to my parents. She wasn't getting involved. My cousin Philip, who I see sometimes at the holidays, texted me asking if I was really pissed about the cabin thing. So clearly people were talking, just not to me. I told him, yeah, obviously. And he just said, that sucks, but not much you can do. And then changed the subject. The escalation, no more. Mr. Nice Guy, so now I was getting pissed. Not just at my parents, but at the whole family for acting like this was normal. I took a screenshot of Danielle's Facebook post and sent it to the family group chat. No comment, just the picture. I didn't get a single reply for 2 days. Finally, my mom messaged me privately, said I was being immature, that it was Danielle's time and I should let her enjoy it. I said, you could have at least told me. She ignored that and said, if you want to be included in the future, you need to stop causing trouble. I replied, so the only way I get to be family is if I shut up and smile about you giving away the one thing Granddad wanted us to share. She left me on red. Around that time, I ran into my dad at the grocery store. He was buying steaks. I was in the next aisle. He saw me, sighed like I was a headache. I asked him quietly, why didn't you talk to me about the cabin? He just shrugged. You never really cared anyway, and you just start one of your projects and leave the place a mess. I said, I did most of the deck repairs last year, remember? He said, you just wanted to play with tools, not actually contribute. I told him, you could have at least given me a chance. He went, we did what we thought was best for the family. Danielle deserves a fresh start, and you just fight us on everything. I told him, you know this isn't right. And he literally rolled his eyes and walked away with his cart. I just stood there, barely believing it. The turning point. Action. Not words. I tried to talk to Danielle in person after that. I messaged her, said I wanted to clear the air. She said she was super busy but could do coffee. So we met at this place near her apartment, and right away she was on her phone, barely looking up. I asked her, did you know they didn't tell me? She sighed. I assumed you knew. Mom and Dad handled everything and I don't want drama before the wedding. I asked, do you even care that you basically took the only thing we had from Granddad? She said, you never wanted to settle down. You said you'd never use it anyway, and Mom said you were fine with it. I said, I never said that. And she shrugged. Well, it's done now. I pushed my chair back a little too hard, stood up, and she just looked back down at her phone. I left without saying goodbye. Over the next week, my mom sent me a long message about family unity, how I should support Danielle's new chapter. She said, if you keep this up, you won't be invited to the wedding. I screenshot that and sent it back to her. No text. Now it was awkward as hell. I heard through Philip that some of the older relatives were asking questions because my granddad's brother apparently saw my screenshot and asked why I never got a say. My mom texted me, furious, said I was making her look bad and airing private family matters. I said, if you wanted it private, you shouldn't have put it all over Facebook. She sent back a thumbs up again. I decided, screw it. I'm not keeping quiet. I started CCing some of the extended family in emails, asking if anyone knew more about the trust. Mostly silence. But one uncle, Stanley, who's always been weirdly into legal stuff, said he remembered some conditions on the trust but didn't have the paperwork. He said if I wanted to see it, I'd have to ask my parents directly for the documents. I emailed my mom and dad asking for copies. No reply. So I showed up at my parents' place. I didn't call ahead. My dad opened the door, looked, surprised, then annoyed. I said, "I want to see the trust paperwork now." He said, "You're not coming in. Not if you're going to start a fight." I stepped past him anyway, and he put a hand on my shoulder to stop me. I pushed it off. My mom yelled from the kitchen, "You're being ridiculous. Get out." I said, "Not until I see the papers." My dad stepped in front of me and blocked the hallway. I told him, "You can't just cut me out and pretend it's all fine." My mom slammed a cupboard. "We did what we had to do. Danielle is actually building a life, not just wasting time on projects." I snapped. "So what? I don't count." She just said, "You made your choices. Live with them." I left. Slammed the door. On my way out, not sure if I was going to get the cops called on me. I drove around for an hour, just blasting music, thinking about how this all got so screwed up. I kept replaying the same lines in my head like, how was I always the one who didn't deserve things just because I didn't do the 9 to 5, marry young, buy a house routine like Danielle? My parents always acted like the only way to be successful was to copy their exact playbook. I guess me doing things my own way was just proof to them that I'd never grow up. The fallout, no more invisible kid. The next day, Danielle texted me. "Why are you making everything so hard? Just let it go. This is supposed to be a happy time." I replied, "You don't get to erase me just because I'm inconvenient." She blocked me. Now my roommate is asking what's up because I've been slamming doors and not really talking. I told him a bit, and he goes, "Dude, that's so messed up. You gotta do something." I agree, but I'm not sure what yet. But I know I'm not just letting them get away with it. I started looking up more about trusts, property transfers, all that. I found out there's a way to force an accounting of how the trust was handled, but I'd need actual proof. I figured if I couldn't get the papers, maybe I could at least make enough noise that they'd have to answer. So that's where I was at. Families pretending I don't exist. Danielle's planning her wedding at the cabin. Parents are acting like I'm just this embarrassing footnote. But now some of the extended family is starting to ask questions, and I'm not backing down. They want to erase me, but I'm louder than they remember. Next move is going to be theirs, but I'm not waiting around for an invite. I'm just getting started. Taking control. Receipts and repercussions. If you think I was just going to let them trash me and get away with it, you don't know me at all. I poked around, found out the cabin was supposed to be for both kids, not just Princess Danielle. But nobody in the family wanted to get involved or even admit it. First weird thing, Danielle started posting a bunch of throwbacks of her at the cabin, but kept turning off comments on anything I tagged myself in. Mom was suddenly all about posting. Inspirational quotes about forgiveness and family unity. Super subtle, right? I got a couple of DMs from cousins asking what was going on, and I just told them straight up, no drama, just the facts. I could tell some of them didn't want to pick sides, but at least a couple started liking my posts about family fairness. Not much, but enough to know people were whispering. Then, out of nowhere, I got a letter at my apartment from the county, like actual mail. It was a notice about maintenance cost disclosures on the cabin property. I didn't even know I was listed anywhere. Turns out my name was still on some old paperwork from when I helped with repairs. Receipts and stuff. My granddad kept everything. So I dug through my old emails and found a chain from 3 summers ago where I literally paid for materials and covered a bunch of the taxes when my dad forgot. I printed everything out, started a file, and called the county office. Not to play lawyer, but to ask what my options were since I contributed to maintenance and taxes. They said if I had records, I could file a claim for reimbursement or demand an accounting of the trust because I was technically a beneficiary. So I started the paperwork. Took a few days, but I filed a formal request for a full financial accounting of the trust and reimbursement for my share of expenses. I CC'd Danielle and her fiancé. And because I'm not dumb, I also sent copies to the aunt and uncle who were closest with Granddad. I attached the receipts, the emails, and the clause I found about equal benefit. No threats, no drama, just facts. This is where things got spicy. Danielle's fiancé's parents, who are super uptight, suddenly messaged me asking if there was legal trouble about the wedding gift. I said, "Ask my parents, I'm just asking for what Granddad wanted." Next thing I knew, the wedding group chat. Yes, I was still in it, LOL, was blowing up with side messages and Danielle's friends wondering why there was property drama. I just replied with my usual, "Ask my parents." The showdown. No turning back, my mom called me. Didn't even say, "Hi," just launched into how I was ruining Danielle's big moment and how I always have to make everything about myself. I said, "You did this, not me. You could have just talked to me like an adult." She said, "You're just jealous. You'll never have what Danielle has." I told her, "I don't want what she has. I want what I'm owed." And I wasn't backing down. She hung up. 5 minutes later, Dad texted me, "You're making a fool of yourself. Just drop it before you embarrass everyone." I told him, "Should have thought of that before you gave away something that wasn't yours." He left me on read. Danielle tried to call. I answered. She was crying. "Why are you doing this? I just want to have a nice wedding. Why can't you let me be happy?" I told her, "You're not a kid anymore. You don't get to play innocent while you take the one thing we both had." She said, "Mom told me you said you didn't care." I told her, "You never even asked." She started yelling. I started yelling. She called me selfish. I told her to grow up. She hung up. Now the group chat was dead. I started getting texts from random relatives. Mostly, "Can you just let it go for the sake of family?" I told them, "Ask my parents. I'm not the problem." My cousin Philip texted me, "I get why you're mad, but isn't this going to just make everyone hate you?" I said, "They already do. What's the difference?" Meanwhile, I requested a property tax reassessment on the cabin. I knew that would jack up the annual bill, especially since Danielle just got it transferred as a gift. So now she's on the hook for the full value, not the old family rate. I also called the utility companies and asked for an audit of all past expenses since my name was on the account for years. I sent Danielle an invoice for half of the repairs and taxes I paid out of pocket, with a carbon copy to her fiancé and his parents. I wasn't bluffing. I had receipts for everything: lumber, shingles, paint, the dumb new fridge Dad made me split. My dad showed up at my apartment, banged on the door. I opened it a crack. He tried to push in. I blocked him. He said, "You need to stop. You're turning everyone against us." I said, "I'm not doing anything. You started this." He tried to get in my face. I shoved his hand off my doorframe. He started yelling, "You're not getting a dime. You're not family if you go through with this." I told him. Then I guess I never was. I slammed the door. Now I was getting emails from the county and the trust administrator asking for copies of all documents. Apparently, my parents never officially closed the trust or notified everyone, which is a big no-no. I forwarded everything. Danielle's fiancé's parents started asking questions in the wedding group chat, and I just posted the trust clause and said, "Ask my parents." Then I left the chat. Aunt Doris, who's never liked my mom, called me and said, "I'm glad someone finally stood up to them. This has been coming for years." I asked her if she remembered the trust details. She said, "Not really, but Granddad always wanted it fair." I thanked her and hung up. Last thing, my mom tried to call. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Please, we didn't mean it like that. You're going to ruin everything. Just talk to us. We can make this right." I deleted it. The aftermath. Truth triumphs. So now the wedding is up in the air. Danielle's fiancé's parents are pissed. The property taxes are about to spike, and my parents can't even spin it to the family anymore, because I put the receipts everywhere. Everyone's mad at me, but at least they're not pretending I'm invisible. I know some people will say this is petty or whatever, but honestly, you try being erased and see how chill you feel. I'm not done. This isn't about money. It's about not being treated like trash. They wanted to play favorites and got burned. It started with a group chat lighting up at like 6 a.m., which is already a bad sign. My phone was blowing up, and it wasn't even my parents. It was Danielle. And she left 14 voicemails by noon. Not exaggerating, I counted. She was freaking out, saying, "What did you do? Dad won't stop asking for you. Please just pick up. You're going to ruin everything. Why are you doing this? Are you happy? Please just stop." And on. I just let them sit there. The weirdest thing is how quickly people switch up when they realize you're not bluffing. My parents always counted on me being too stubborn or too tired to actually fight back. Like my whole life, they figured I'd get pissed, say my piece, then drop it, and let Danielle get whatever she wanted because she was the one who listens. That was always the gig. She'd do the milestones. I'd get called the project guy or wasting space. My dad's thing was always, "You can't finish what you start. You screw up everything you touch." My mom would just sigh and say, "Danielle actually tries. Why can't you be more like her?" I used to think it was just parenting, but at some point, they stopped seeing me as family and started seeing me as a joke. So yeah, I stopped playing after I filed for the trust accounting and the tax reassessment hit. Everything got awkward, real fast. Turns out they never actually finished closing the trust, so legally nothing could be transferred. The county flagged the transfer, and now there's a pile of paperwork nobody wants to deal with. Danielle's fiancé's parents are suddenly a lot less enthusiastic about the wedding gift. My parents are getting calls from relatives asking what the hell happened because I made sure everyone saw the receipts. I got a couple of emails from old family friends just asking, "Is everything okay?" Which is honestly hilarious since they never cared before. The best part, if you want to call it that, was when I ran into my mom at the grocery. She was by the deli looking at her phone, and when she saw me, she just glared. I walked right past her. She tried to block my cart, said I was being dramatic, said, "Nobody wants this. Why can't you just let it go?" I told her, "You never wanted me to be family unless I was silent." She slapped the side of my cart and stormed off. I didn't even flinch. Danielle tried texting again, then switched to calling. I answered once just because I was tired of the notification. She was crying, saying, "You don't know how hard this is for me. Mom and Dad are fighting. The wedding might be off. How could you do this to us?" I told her, "I didn't do anything. You all did this when you decided one person mattered and the other didn't." She said, "You're so bitter. You're ruining everything." I said, "I'm not sorry," and hung up. Then I blocked her. I'm just done. My dad showed up at my place one last time. I opened the door. He tried to push his way in. I blocked him. He shouted, "You've ruined our family. You're going to regret this." I told him, "You already ruined it. You just thought I'd never notice." He shoved. I shoved it back and slammed the door. That was it. After that, it was just silence. No more group chat. No more invites. My aunt, Doris, texted, "Good for you. They needed to be taken down a peg." Philip sent me a meme about family drama speedruns. Most people just went quiet. I don't care. I'm not looking for a trophy or some fake apology. The fallout. Weddings postponed. Danielle's fiancé's family is demanding all the paperwork before they move forward. The county's got my parents on the hook for back taxes and possible penalties. Because they tried to skip the rules. Everyone knows what happened, and nobody's pretending anymore. My parents keep leaving voicemails, all the classics. "Please talk to us. We didn't mean it like that. We just wanted the best for everyone. Can't we start over?" No, I'm not interested. The thing is, I'm not even mad anymore. I'm not happy either. Just done. I got my point across. I didn't forgive, I didn't forget. I didn't heal. I just made sure the people who tried to erase me had to live with the mess they made. If they want to clean it up, that's on them. So yeah, sometimes you don't get a neat ending. Sometimes you just get the truth out in the open, and that's enough. If you're reading this and you're the invisible kid in your family, trust me, you're a lot harder to erase than they think.